Philo's garage will be really, really quiet. Good morning, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are YouTube. So, today, this is something very, very different that I've never done before. We're riding an electric bike. This is the latest model, 0S, and this is just a completely new experience. So, I'm powered down here today on the media day for Zero Motorcycles. They've brought us over to their offices and given us these bikes to go and take out for a ride. And we've got a guide in front of us. We've got the option whether we can go their way or ours. I'm going to follow the guide because I don't know the area and try this bike. Now technically this bike is learner legal, although to be honest I absolutely would not consider putting a learner on this. So this is the interesting point with electric bikes. You need to throw away everything you know about motorcycles, because this is 11 kilowatts, but that's sustained power and it registers different for electric vehicles. And 11 kilowatts on a normal bike is going to be just 12 horsepower, 14 horsepower, but only at a very small peak RPM range, where this is everywhere. So if I open it now, it's like having peak power all the time. And I have to say, this is more than ample. This is absolutely quite capable of accelerating well. This is very responsive. You can see there on the dashboard, when you're accelerating, you'll see the power levels go up and then back off. So there's no tacho because no RPM to speak of. It's telling you how much power you're using, and it's actually quite well, you don't really notice it because you're just going. But this has got about 180 kilos under it, so it's not a light bike, but because that's all battery, it's centralised in the middle of the bike and makes it really quite light to ride, and you don't notice it, and it feels more like a 300cc. I mean, the riding position's great, it's super smooth, very responsive, but also what you've got on this are different power modes. So your basic one's eco, that gives you more battery regeneration and less power and a hard limit of 70 miles an hour. You've got a custom mode which you can set up yourself on an app on your phone and then Bluetooth into the bike. You can control how much power and how much regen you get. And then this one's currently sitting in sport mode, and it is quite simple. If you want to change modes, roll off the throttle, press the button, there we go, that's eco. The throttle is much more general. I'll go to sport mode there, so get into sport, get ready, and let's not waste our opportunity. No, let's not go just yet. It's because I was volleying around with the modes. Silly me. But yeah, it gives you the option that you then can overtake a lot more easily. So Zero was actually started by an ex-NASA engineer, and America seems to be pretty much the hotbed of clean technologies in terms of vehicles, between Tesla and Zero and other people. And there are actually a few battery electric bikes out there. Of course, battery, there's not really any other type, but there are quite a few out there, and I think it's a sector of the market that's going to gain traction quite quickly. I think we're going straight for the overtake, are we? Yes, we are. Oh, yeah, there's plenty of power there. Yeah, so that was absolutely instantaneous, and a 600cc bike wouldn't have done that any quicker, but of course there's no down changing. But what you do notice with that upright riding position is the wind pressure and the blast is actually coming into play before the lack of power is. And I say lack of power because there isn't one. There categorically is no lack of power on this motorcycle at all. It's just weirdly rubber band like because it just goes. But this is actually, despite the bike's weight, you don't feel it in the slightest, and it is actually quite nimble, and it's not, I'm not feeling it heavy. It's quite easy to change direction on, and it feels, yeah, it really responds to a little counter steer. And it's spookily smooth because it's belt drive, electric direct drive motor, so there's nothing to create any vibration. There is no chain to vibrate, there's no engine to vibrate, no engine mounts, no resonance through the frame. And it's the old adage with engineering: if you want no vibration, don't generate it. You know, it's better to not have vibration than it is to try and damp it out. And this is a particularly good performer on hills because the torque is instantaneous, so it does perform particularly well on hills. And if you live in an area like this where it is very hilly, this is going to be an excellent choice. Now, the range is quite good on these. You can run to over 100 miles, so you're not having a problem unless you're doing longer rides. But for someone that lives in, say, Buckinghamshire, one of the home counties or somewhere like that, commutes into London, this is great, because the other thing that's going to happen with this is you're not going to wear out parts in the way that an internal combustion vehicle does. It's not going to, you know, it doesn't wear in the same way. The motor only has obviously one moving part, and then you've got a couple of wheel bearings and a drive belt, and that's it. So equally, a high mileage one of these is really not going to be something to be afraid of. So what about the riding then? The low speed handling is super smooth, super easy, despite its significant power, and it is quite significant despite what the numbers suggest. It's actually super easy, and it's very, very tractable because obviously of the way it's delivered, it works really well. It's very, very squirty. I mean, that was half throttle just now. You can watch the gauge, drop back a bit, watch the power gauge, and it's very instantaneous. Although doing that is going to eat your battery life quite significantly. It's just weird though, coming down to a standstill where there's no clutch and no gears underneath your left hand and foot. You've got nothing on the left bar, nothing on the left foot. You've just got a front brake on your right hand and a rear brake on your right foot. But the low speed handling is super easy, super smooth, super controllable. So it does start very gently. So it's probably one of the easiest bikes I've ever ridden, manoeuvring at low speed. And just pulling into a car park earlier, I could ride this at 3 miles an hour with my feet up without any thought, because you're not controlling a clutch or anything like that. There's no engine trying to do a certain speed. It will work at whatever speed you're at, which in these sort of moments is actually quite likeable, because at the moment we're just pottering along. I'm not having to give a thought about gears, where obviously if you're trickling through traffic on an internal combustion engine, are you in the gear to accelerate round things, or are you in the gear to plod along without going, you know? So this is actually working better in that respect. So let's have a quick think. What are my thoughts on the Zero S? It's expensive, there's no getting around that. This is not a cheap motorcycle, and this is the base point of the line. So it is an expensive bike. However, the running costs are an absolute fraction, a tiny fraction of the running costs of an all motorcycle. Servicing is going to be significantly cheaper, and this is somewhat future-proof in that until there's no electricity, it's going to work realistically. The lifespan and reliability seems to be very good. It's not a new technology insofar as the batteries and motors are well known, but it is definitely, you know, you see there the way that's gathering speed is really quite. That wasn't full throttle. There's no learner bike in the world that would accelerate like that. But yeah, so the battery technology is quite well proven, the motor technology is well proven, and the rest of the motorcycle is a motorcycle. The suspension is normal suspension, the brakes except for the regen are normal brakes, and everything is exactly what you'd expect it to be. So if you're currently using something like a CB500, you're commuting 40 miles to work each day, you can get somewhere you can plug it in to charge it when you're in the office, this is going to make a great long-term proposition. This is going to operate for 8 or 10 years on virtually no expense. So by the time you factor in your fuel and your running costs, this is going to be a hands-down favourite. So, are electric bikes the future? It's looking increasingly like that. When you think about it logically, most bikes come out the garage, do 50 miles on a Sunday morning, stop off for a bacon roll, and go back in the garage. Well, why not plug it in when you're in there and basically ride for free? I think the motorcycles are one of the prime places where electric power is very suitable. And you can see there, that overtaking ability is absolutely superb. This is fantastic. I can quite understand why John McGuinness reckons that what he terms the scale S rigs is one of the most fun things he's ever ridden at the TT. I completely agree. This is totally blowing my conceptions of a motorcycle apart. Now, I'm used to fast bikes. You know, I race a Nitro Sentinel 1100, and this is more than fast enough on the road from 11 kilowatts. And I'm really starting to gel with this. I'm really starting to love it. I think I need to give it back to zero before I make an expensive move. So there you go, this is Zero S. We're going to be back out on another one shortly, a more powerful one, and we'll see what that's like. But I suspect, if it's anything like this, hilarious. If you like these videos, hit the like and subscribe button. At the moment, 95% of you watching are not subscribed, but do hit those like and subscribe buttons, and we'll bring you more videos like this from the future.